welcome to Pots, Pans, and Pioneers. Today I'm going to be making a sweet and savory cinnamon roll. So in my mixing bowl I have scalded milk and a half a cup of butter. And the butter is melting with the scalded milk. If you don't know how to make scalded milk, all you do is take your milk, put it in a saucepan, bring it to a boil, turn off the stove, and move the saucepan off of the burner, and you have scalded milk. So this is 1 cup of scalded milk and a half a cup of butter, and I'm just incorporating them until the butter is melted. I do have another cinnamon roll recipe. It's in my vlogs, but it's an apple cinnamon roll, and this does not have fruit in it. So if you want to check out that video, I'll leave the link in the description for you. Okay, we'll be back when the butter is completely melted. Okay, so then I added 1/3 cup of sugar, and I'm using organic sugar, into the scalded milk and butter. And we need to wait for the temperature of this liquid to come to at least a minimum or a maximum of 115 degrees. This cinnamon roll recipe is not for an overnight cinnamon roll where you have to let it rise overnight. You could do these cinnamon rolls within a couple of hours. So I'm just going to check the temperature. Okay, it's 113 degrees. That's really good. So what we're going to do after that is we're going to add 4 cups of, actually let's do the yeast next. And I'm just using just a rapid rise yeast. I think any yeast would work as long as it's fresh. You know, don't pull yeast out of your pantry you've had in there a year, because they won't turn out. Yeast is only usually good for a couple of months in a package, so. And if this is too hot, you'll kill the yeast off. Okay, and then we're going to add 4 cups of flour. We're going to put our dough hook on the machine. And right before I do that, I'm going to add my first egg, and this is just a large egg. You want your eggs at room temperature, so take them out maybe an hour before you start. And we're going to add our other egg. And you're just going to knead this till it comes to a ball and it pulls away from the bowl. So we'll be back. Okay, the dough is pulling away from the bowl, but we want this dough to really incorporate all the gluten, so we're going to let this mix for about 15 to 20 minutes so that the dough is really stretchy. Okay, that's what you want right there. See how it's not, let's see if I can get the camera a little closer. See how there's nothing on my finger? The dough is not coming off on my hands. That's what you want. Not sticky. It's just high gluten. pull it off of here. And then put this, clean this off. Get this out of the way. So, let's see if I can get this camera working. Okay, so your dough should pull away without anything here. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover this, and I'm going to set it in the oven because there'll be no draft at all. I'm going to cover it with some plastic wrap. I'm using press and seal, but you could use plastic wrap if you wanted. I just like the way this is easy to work with. Okay, we're gonna put this in. I'm gonna drop this in the oven with the oven off for 90 minutes, and we'll be back. Okay, let's see how our dough did. It should double in size. Oh yeah, so it doubled in size. Now what we need to do is we need to flour a board or a granite countertop, or you need to flour a clean surface area. And I say, you know, light flour area, not heavy, because we're not trying to put flour into it. We want to flour our hands. We want to flour the rolling pin. Make sure it's really... This is not a sticky dough, but we sure don't want, you know, a lot of excess flour to go into the recipe. So I'm going to take the dough, and take it out of the bowl. And you can see it, we need to punch it down. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on top. And what we're going to do is try to make it a really long rectangle. But before we do that, in order to create your layered, you know, your flaky layers, we're going to roll this like, we're going to knead this a few times. Once this way, and then once this way. So let's get it, you know, really into a rectangle going in that direction. I may have to move some of my stuff here. Cinnamon rolls are really a labor of love, you know. They're not a quick and easy breakfast item. You got to think about making them. You have to plan to make them. Unless you can find a recipe that's a biscuit-like, you know, this uses baking powder. Yeast type, you know, cinnamon rolls, they take time. And the only ones that I've ever really truly thought were worthy were the ones that sit overnight and rise, to do a second rise. So it just takes time to work out this dough. And you can see the little lines in here. That's okay. We're just making the flakes, the flakiness of the dough. That's okay. This isn't a puff pastry, so I'm going to flip the dough over just so I can get a good handle on making sure that, you know, this, okay. So I'm really trying to get this to be this size, so I'm just going to be, and it's got a lot of spring in it, so every time I roll it out it springs back. It's alright. It just really needs to be warmed up. so the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some softened butter. I have a half a stick of softened butter, but I've got another one because I constantly have softened butter out because I use it all the time. And I keep it in a pretty decent place where it's not gonna get rancid. And I'm using real butter. This is not margarine. If you're gonna use, I've never done it with margarine. I don't know who would want cinnamon rolls made with margarine. Anyway, so I'm gonna take this half a stick of butter and I'm gonna spread it out with my hands. This is not obviously clean hands. It's not something you want to do with hard butter because it won't work. This is just a real savory, sweet and savory cinnamon roll. It's not going to be super sweet, but it's going to be, these are great to show up at a party with. They'll be unlike anybody's ever had before. Okay, and the next thing we need is brown sugar. Brown sugar. I make my own, and if you want to know how I make it, there's a video in my video log. And I'm going to do, that's a half a cup. I'm going to use a little bit over half, so 2/3 of a cup. Just light brown sugar, and I'm just going to take it. And I'm going to make sure it's all over the cinnamon roll. You know, some of it's going to come out the sides, right? Okay. So the next thing I'm going to add is you could do crispy bacon. You could do the bacon where it's just has a little bit left to be done to get crispy. And you could crumble bacon on these, but today I'm going to be using some ham that I've finely chopped up. You could put raisins on it at this point. You could do walnuts at this point too. My husband has a nut allergy, so I'm not going to do that to him. But I did take some ham and warm it up in the skillet, and this is just fluffy. There's not a lot of grease, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle the ham. When you bake ham, you use brown sugar, and this, if you can think about it, will taste really, really yummy with the cream cheese frosting and a little bit of ham. I know it's not a new idea, but I don't ever see people making them like this, and these are a cinnamon roll that my grandmother always served in her restaurant. So, and I just always do a liberal amount of, you know, ham, because when you bite into the cinnamon roll, you're going to get that sugary frosting, and then you're going to get the sweetness of the cream cheese as well. Okay, we want a greased 13 by 9 pan, and I'm going to take this dough. It's not going to be sticking to the board because remember we floured it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by pressing in. Before you start rolling it, you really want to press in the first roll, and then you're going to press in again, always pressing in your filling, you know, and depending on how much filling you've got going on here, I'm really pressing and grabbing and cupping underneath like that. Okay. I don't think I've made these for Bill before, so this will be a new experience. He'll go, ham? That's really strange, but I think you'll love them. And who doesn't like some buttery brown sugar ham on a roll? Bake them in the morning. We're going to bake them at 350 for 20 to 25 minutes depending on your oven. Check them at 20 minutes. And then the real trick here is to make sure that you know, you're at the very end, that your end doesn't come undone. I'm going to take a bunch of these to my ladies' Bible study tomorrow. I'm going to see what they think about them too. Okay, so we're just going to, and what I'm going to do is kind of warm up the dough and kind of lengthen it so I can get more rolls out of this dough than, you know. Okay, I would say use a buttered pan, but we have so much butter going on here. I just sprayed it with some canola oil. And I'm going to use a serrated bread knife. I'm going to cut this in half so it's easier to work with on this table. And I'm going to still try to get... You could bake these in muffin tins as well if you like all the sides crispy. I like all the sides touching so that they're not crispy. And I'm going to start at the end over here. And I'm not pressing, I'm letting the knife work by itself. So this is what I would call a taster. It doesn't have a lot of filling, it's just the dough. But it can get, you know, iced really easily. Okay. And I'm just doing them about probably an inch. And it might be too small to cut into half, so I may leave that one kind of big. Okay, let's cut the other section. I'm going to go ahead and get these in the pan. I'm telling you, you've not tasted a savory cinnamon roll before, you really should. Cinnamon roll. Okay, and again, I'm just going to try to lengthen them a little bit by just extending it. I'm going to cut off the ends. Okay, just so you can see, look how many I've got in the pan already. There is one large one, but okay, this is home cooking. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is not a machine operated. Got a few extras, so I'm going to cut a few and just put them in a different pan. And if you like this recipe and you try it, please share it with somebody that you know. I really am anxious to see what people think about it and how, you know, yummy they think it is. I know I'm not the only one that thinks things are yummy. Anyway, so I got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 cinnamon rolls, and I probably, if I did them all the same size, I would have gotten 24. So this will do 12 to 24 depending on what you're doing and how perfect you like them cut. But you can see the dough isn't sticky at all. It's real buttery. It's perfect. Okay, so I'm going to get these right here in the oven. And when they come out, we'll frost them and I'll have Bill taste one. And I think because my Bible study is tomorrow morning, I'm going to put these in the refrigerator. Cover them with some plastic wrap, put them in the refrigerator, and I'll bake these in the morning before I leave. So everybody at this, all the ladies will have hot or warm cinnamon rolls by the time I get there. All right, we'll be back. Okay, one last thing. Since these are savory cinnamon rolls, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use cinnamon to sprinkle on top. And a little bit of nutmeg. It's all mixed together. All right. And we'll get these in the oven. I'm doing the frosting, or the cream cheese frosting. This is just a standard cream cheese frosting. It's got 4 ounces of cream cheese, or a half a brick, a half a stick of butter, a tablespoon of milk, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and 2 cups of powdered sugar. The trick to really not having the sugar fly around on you is to keep your mixer in one position and just gradually move it over. Don't whip around the bowl and it won't powder up on you. I'm just gradually moving around the bowl. I'm really not, that's the trick to not having it fly around on you. Cream cheese frosting. Okay, once the cinnamon rolls or the sweet and savory rolls come out, I will put them over here and we'll get them frosted. Okay, let's get these frosted so Bill can try them. I don't think he's ever had these. All right, I'm gonna go get Bill.
It's good.
Can you taste the ham?
Mm-hmm. Goes well.
Okay.
I'll eat them.